Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 35th plagiarized episode of Analyzing Evil. Today is especially plagiarized as I didn't write any of this. Unfortunately, JJ's got a little bit of a cold, so I am stepping in. Today's episode will be featuring Devin Weston from the Grand Theft Auto 5, the filthy rich billionaire with an overinflated ego and top-level arrogance. Devin Weston serves as one of Grand Theft Auto's most hated characters, especially in the game he appears in. Now, obviously, we don't have a lot to go off when it comes to Devin Weston. However, there is something to say when it comes to him outside of the game itself. It's been widely speculated that Devin Weston is a parody of the late Howard Hughes, who was one of the richest people in the world, known for being many of the things that Devin Weston is in Grand Theft Auto universe. However, Howard Hughes was far more reclusive than our forlorn billionaire is, and it's possible that despite their similarities, Devin Weston is meant to represent numerous scumbag billionaires who rip people off. With that being said, let's talk about the character himself. Devin Weston was born in the early 1960s, as he is in 51 in Grand Theft Auto 5, which takes place in 2013. Aside from his business ventures, there isn't a lot we know about him. Whether he started off middle class and rose his way to the top, or was born into his wealth is unknown, but one thing is clear: he is extremely typical narcissist. In fact, his demise is directly tied to that, his entire personality throughout the game. In every scene in the game, Devin Weston is condescending towards the trio to an extremely needless degree. The reason for this comes from Devin Weston himself in many areas, such as when he plans to rob his supposed Chinese friends, when he expresses to Franklin that he's rich enough to do whatever the fuck he wants, topped with telling Franklin that he is poor enough to do anything he says. It's extremely obvious to conclude that he thinks of himself as untouchable due to his extreme wealth, and sees nobody as a threat because they're all poorer than him. The only time he panics in the entire game is in the Death Wish ending, where his entire band of Merryweather mercenaries assigned to protect him are all killed. Before then, he had a casual, antagonistic attitude to the three protagonists and the other characters. He doesn't take Franklin, Michael, or Trevor seriously. On top of that, he enjoys egging people on. Remember when he didn't pay the trio for the stolen cars? Yeah, you might remember that his excuse was he was paying them into an investment fund that he would manage. Now, obviously he was lying and he simply just stiffed their payment, but he was so overconfident that he would be able to screw over the three incredibly skilled dangerous criminals without consequence. Devin Weston is in a way incredibly stupid, as his narcissism soared to the point where he thought he could get away with anything. Even before his ultimate demise, we see this in how he lost his legal counsel Molly. He betrayed his longtime friend Solomon Richards by having his lawyer take his then friend's copy of the film Meltdown, which also angered Michael DeSanta, as he basically betrayed him too. Of course, Molly was accidentally killed during all of this, and Devin Weston was pissed at Michael, even though what happened was all his own fault. It wasn't even like he generally cared about Molly. It was just the support she provided that he cared about, and it was extremely petty to hold a grudge against Michael, despite his attempts to clear things up with Devin. Michael, despite being fucked over, was more than willing to forgive Devin, which I think says a lot, given that Michael was quick to anger, and given this is over his first movie in which he was a producer. You'd think Devin Weston wouldn't escalate the situation. But he did, because he's extremely stupid and narcissistic. The two go hand in hand, and it leads me to think that he was born into wealth, because he obviously didn't understand the idea of starving off rivals and making allies. Devin Weston made an absolute enemy out of everyone. It's no wonder his plan to get Franklin to kill Michael didn't work whatsoever. And because he didn't have any true friends, there was no one there to help him when things turned around. Both Solomon Richards and Steve Haynes considered Devin Weston their friend, and it's something Devin completely disregarded, as he screwed over Richards and told Franklin that he could end Steve Haynes' career if he wanted to. But even if he could, then what? He would just be creating another enemy who hated him. And the thing is, Devin just kept creating enemies and getting people to hate him. So here's something to think about. Even in the best case scenario for Devin Weston, in which Franklin decides to kill Michael, I don't think that Devin would just live happily ever after. because even if his ego didn't catch up to him in 2013, it was bound to catch up to him eventually. And keep in mind, it's mentioned in the Kill Trevor ending that Merryweather lost their license to operate in the States. That means, more or less, that Devin Weston would encounter many problems. The more and more people he screwed over, there's nothing to say that his enemies couldn't rise in prominence and completely overcome him. It's known that he underpaid his own mercenaries, so he was also prone to be shot in the back. So even if you picked ending B, don't feel too bad, because Devin Weston was destined to get his just desserts eventually. Even if Michael was out of the picture, his victory in ending B is inevitably going to be short-lived, as he lost in ending A and C for different reasons. But the point is, the games show that things aren't going to end well for Devin, because as we know in ending B, he still lost his legal counsel, he still screwed over Solomon Richards, and Trevor is still out there, and someday he might decide to kill Devin himself. It was incredibly stupid for Weston to keep Trevor alive, and given his general personality, I'm surprised that he didn't just screw Franklin over and tell him that he'd have to kill Trevor too. Sparing Trevor was out of sheer pragmatism, but who's to say that Trevor won't kill him someday anyway? We see in ending C that Trevor single-handedly tore through Merryweather to get to Devin. Thinking about the consequences of ending A and B, it's probable to say that even in the case of Devin's survival, he won't be around for much longer. Devin had a self-destructive personality throughout the story, and if not Franklin, Michael and Trevor, it would have been someone else. So in conclusion, Devin Weston totally deserves his demise, and in the non-canon outcomes, he still lost in ending A and his victory was short-lived in ending B. His inability to assess threats and screwing over anyone he felt like was his downfall. He can be seen as a weak villain for this reason, and maybe it's bad writing, but at the same time, Devin Weston's destructive, arrogant personality ensured his demise all the same. So regardless, is a character consistent with who he was shown in GTA 5? He has no redeeming qualities, and while his villainy passes the baseline, it's underwhelming compared to the most evil GTA villains, like Frank Tenpenny or Dmitry Raskolov. There is no evil cool presence. He's an annoying asshole who just thought he'd get away with anything, and paid dearly for his judgment. Devin Weston is probably one of the least intelligent GTA antagonists, and while he pales in comparison to other villains of the GTA series, his story, however, could serve as a reminder that he should have just paid the protagonists, and then he probably would have still been alive today. Unless all his wealth was stripped from him, however, Devin Weston would forever remain evil. Thank you for listening to this episode of Analyzing Evil. What do you think of Devin Weston? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, and we will see you next time.